Tan, tan, tararan. Hello, how are ya? Hola community! Welcome to episode number 132 of Blender Today. It's the last, is it the last episode of the year? We might. So much has happened, so much. Today, please sit down. We're going to see a new editor, the asset browser, a whole bunch of new nodes for geometry nodes. There is a new node in the Compositor. There is news in the video sequence. They're gonna the way you work with videos and objects in the video sequence editor will change forever. It's gonna be so much nicer. What else? Animation, NLA tweaks, user interface, you name it. Today we have quite the show for you. So, because we might be celebrating our last episode, so I brought some apple juice with me. How are you? How is everything okay? Is the audio fine? I've managed to click and to sounds like a robot. Oh no, I'm a robot. What is it? Is it something wrong with the audio? I hope not. Let's continue. Audio sounds perfect to me. Yay! I think I'm just a robot. I'm a robot. Thank you for that. All right. It's time to move. This is the music that I play always, by the way. Tahian full EP. This is the one, and also this one here, the one that's called Maja full EP, is also pretty nice. And maybe I can put it here so you can also listen to it. All right, let's move on. Let's continue. So let me switch. This is my list. This is my Google Doc with BlenderToday updates. This is all the stuff that I do before. This is the behind the scenes of the show. Like here I just compiled Blender. Here's where is the audio. And okay, let's start with let's see what can we start. Okay, first an announcement. First, a very important announcement, because this is actually time sensitive. Because if you're familiar with the Blender development, you know that the big parts of Blender development are thanks to open movie projects. Like the Compositor came out of Elephant's Dream, the first open movie project ever in the Blender by Blender Foundation. Then Cosmos Laundromat wrote by super nice fur rendering and cycles rendering. Then Sintel, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Sintel? Well, that brought Blender 2.5 to life. So Sintel now is, what is it? It's 5.3 million here, but actually in the YouTube channel of the Blender Foundation, I can see other people that have uploaded this, and there is many with multiple million views. Anyway, why am I sharing this? Because Sintel, I don't know if you remember, at the end of Sintel and of many other open movie projects, you can see, no spoilers, you can see the credits of the amazing people that worked on it, and then you see other people that worked on it, and then you see these people, DVD pre-sale sponsors. Well, we don't sell DVDs anymore. The open movie projects don't have DVDs anymore, but all these people got a credit because they helped making the film happening. Like, that was the way these movies were funded, by having by selling the DVDs in advance, and then, okay, we're gonna make a film, so please help us. Oh, Dalai is here. Look, Dalai Felinto. Thank you, Dalai. All right, this is the credits of a film. If you sign up for the Blender Cloud before the end of the year, and for 1 year, actually, I think it's only until October. So you can do it only until October, only 10 months. But if you sign up for the Blender Cloud and stay on board until October at least, you can be part of the credits of the next open movie project, Sprite Fright. So yes, this open movie project, all the files, all the story, there is even an animatic already uploaded, so you can get super spoiled. Actually, now there is a new feature here in the cloud where you can go to production logs. You can see what the guys are doing here. So you can go to production logs and then click and then see what people are working on. if it's a blend file, you have the little blend file icon. It's actually pretty nice. We've been working really hard on this new version of the cloud, and you can also see the latest videos, but it will have a big spoiler alert button there that if you want to get spoiled. Otherwise, you can also not get spoiled and just get all the training and all the tutorials that the guys are making, not only for the film but for the rest, like the procedural shading training by Simon Thomas. It's a masterpiece. It's just crazy good. So yes, training, films, and open movie credits that are gonna live forever, seen by millions. So make sure you tune in. Here, is it Francesco here? Do you think? Was it around? No. Okay. I'm not even here because I worked on it. All right, let's continue. So yes, make sure you sign up for the Blender Cloud before the end of the year. It's actually time sensitive. So there's a link. Subscribe, stay on board, get a credit, and make the movie happen. And also remember this: the Blender Cloud also helps Blender become better, because the studio are testing Blender. They are making tools. Everything is open source and using open source and open content. So right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it. So the last episode, it was a bit of when I named the episode, the last episode, I named it Asset Browser because it was this close to be immersed into master, to be part of the official master, but it was, yeah, we didn't make it during the making of the last video. Now it's here, and it's here to stay. So without further ado, let's start with the big news of the week, of the day, of the year. I would say 2020 hasn't been so bad because at least it brought us the asset browser, the first version of the asset browser. So what is it? The asset browser is a new editor that is going to help you manage your assets. So what is an asset? An asset can be, and for this I'm going to celebrate. This is a sunny day. It's an American IPA from Joppe, which is a brewery from Haarlem in the Netherlands. The original Haarlem, not the one in New York. So what is an asset? An asset is basically any data block that you mark as asset. It was a design decision from when it was first implemented, when the discussions for the asset browser were happening about, okay, should every data block be an asset or not? And the decision was to no, because what is a data block? Well, a data block, if I allow here my evil twin to make some room, this here, a cube, a camera, or a light, these are all data blocks. A world is a data block. A texture is a data block. A image, a node tree, a node group is also a data block. So everything can be a data block, but maybe you don't want everything to have to be reusable. Maybe you just have a lot of trash in your scene and you don't want to have that available at all times. You want to curate your list. So that's why you have to, if you want to keep it, if you want to make that asset, you want to keep it as an asset or that data block, you can just simply right click, mark asset, and this will mark it as an asset. It will save it in your in the current blend file, or if you save this blend file, you can put it in a special folder and Blender will read all the assets from there. So let's see it in action. So for example, let's say I have a here, let's say I have a monkey. Of course I have, let's not choose a monkey. Let's open something better. Okay, so let's go creative here. Let's go to Sintel. Since we're talking about Sintel, let's open Sintel. This movie was done in 2010, by the way, 10 years ago. So yeah, I deleted Suzanne for Suzanne, sorry. All right, let's see the characters, and let's see the chicken. The chicken is only 2 megabytes, so that's fine. I'm playing with fire here because this was made in 2.5 and I'm opening it in 2.92 alpha. So okay, let's open the chicken and let's make this chicken into an asset. So you can do on the world, for example, right click, mark asset. You can do a material, you can do a mesh, you can do an object, you can do anything, any data block pretty much. Actions can also be assets. So you can also do it in collections. So for example, my polo is the chicken in Spanish. So this is my polo. And then I'm gonna make this into a, for the collections in particular, you actually have to go here into ID data, and then you're gonna find the mark asset. Up here, mark asset. It didn't fit in the screen. All right, mark asset, and that is gonna now this data block is an asset. Yes, weird, I know, but you can tell because it has an asset icon next to it now. So now you can tell. All right, so I just need to save this because this is the blend file that has this asset. I can actually remove everything else, and I only need to save this in the folder where I'm going to have the assets. So where is that? That you can read the documentation for the place where it's stored on your operating system. So you can go to Blender.292, asset browser, and on here you can have multiple asset libraries. You can have by default you have one that is called default, and that one is stored on Windows on C users, username, documents, Blender assets. On Linux is in home, documents, Blender assets, and the same on Mac OS, I believe. So the preferences for it, you can find them under preferences and under file paths. Here I have two, well actually are the same. I just added one extra just to play, but it's just the same basically. You just name it, you just give it a name, like in this case I named it Blender.Today, and then I just give it a folder. So Blender will look for all the blend files in that folder and all the assets inside of that blend files inside of those folders, so they can be listed all properly. So let's see. Coro, documents, Blender assets. If I have here, I go into my folder, Blender assets. I have already one logo that I was testing with, but let's save the chicken over there. So let's go to assets, and I'm gonna name it chicken.blend. Save, and I have my polo here. Let's see. So I'm playing with fire here. I already mentioned, but okay, let's quit. Let's say I went home, I closed Blender, and the next day is like, hey, I want to have chickens everywhere, right? So who doesn't want to have chickens everywhere? Let's open the new file browser. I'm gonna call my evil twin again. Here, swapping. Here, asset browser, and in here I can choose the different repositories or libraries. They're called libraries. This one is default Blender.Today or the current file. The current file is everything that I that I make an asset inside of this current file. So the cube, I can right click, mark an asset, and I have it here. The default material, I can also just simply like right click and then mark asset, and it will show up here as in shading, right? But it's more interesting when you bring it from another place. In this case, here we put it Blender.Today, and voila, I have a bunch of materials that I already had set up, and in objects and collection I have my polo. Yes, it's you can change, you should be able to change the image here, the preview image in the asset itself, in the library itself. But because I didn't choose any, Blender chose this one. And now the time of truth. Let's see if I drag and drop my polo. Look at this boy. Isn't it amazing? Voila, another one and another one. How many polos do you want? Okay, this is pushing the system. Remember, oh no, I'm just gonna show one chicken, not the million chickens from 2010, okay? Right. Wish me luck. Go to the asset browser, objects and collection in Blender Today, and here's my chicken. Let's do it just the one time. Voila. Okay. Okay. Habemos chicken. You seen it? It works. Maybe bringing 4 chickens from 2010, it wasn't a very good idea. I think. However, you've seen the power of this thing. All right, what else? Let's eliminate the chicken and let's bring some materials. Why not? We can actually preview this, right? Yes. Drag and drop some orange color, some blue color, and this is how it is. All right, cubes work much better. So the limit is 3, and the chicken, it's the, yeah, that was a problem. I bet. Come on, 2010. It's not even supposed to work. Some other softwares even don't let you open things, and let alone streaming while you're doing it. So okay. Blender became vegan then. That's why. What else? Asset browser. Let's see the wiki, because there's many things to this new feature. Let's go here and let's see the wiki page. So you can have multiple repositories. You can have multiple types of assets. You can drag and drop them. You can assign them. You can do so many things already, and this is just the beginning. This is just the very first step. You can also have tagging. You can search. Search is still work in progress, but you can search it, and you can tag. You can tag them from when you create an asset from the sidebar. It's really getting there for the very first milestone. Again, remember, this is like the very first step. In the future, this will be expanded to online repositories or more asset types, better UI, better interface. I think the interface could have some more work. I think like creating assets, maybe you should just save it immediately. Like, for example, if I'm here in the Blender.Today repo, I should be able to drag and drop maybe from here and then add it to this repo, and then not to just the current one, the current file. That's something I've been when I was testing it, I kept doing that. I kept doing like drag and drop from the outliner to here, and yeah, not always works yet. Still, this is the first step. All right, this is pretty exciting. Blender 2.92 is gonna be huge, and then 3.0, no, 2.93, which is the LTS, and then 3.0. So okay, we can already be pretty excited about 3.0 in the near future. All right, what if we change topics? Let's see. I'm gonna open here. This is how I have my sounds. It's a software that is called Linux Show Player, and you just click on the sound videos, sound effects that you want. All right, so for this looks ugly. It's like, why do Linux apps look so ugly most of the time? Well, Windows also looks ugly. I think the only one that looks okay is Mac OS. Let's move on. The next topic of the day, the next big change this week is on geometry nodes, because it's a new project, right? It was just added a few weeks ago, and it's been getting super refined. There's a new distribution method, there's new nodes for the new attribute nodes, and there are improvements in the existing nodes that we already had. So let's get to it. Let's see. Clearly this guy never writes his desktop. Yes, I know. Linux can look really good. I know about the Reddit Unix porn. If you go, yeah, terrible name, but on Reddit, that subreddit is like the best examples of how pretty an operating system can look, really. If you are interested in how to make an operating system look nice, like yeah, this is actually the best. I know, and it's open source, but you need a PhD to install these things. That's the issue. Let's continue. Geometry nodes. First, let's see how much better is a new distribution method of points in the point distribute node in geometry nodes. So, what is it? It's called Poisson disk point. Poisson disk point. What is it? It's a new method that Poisson is a type of this. Poisson disk is a type of distribution that it's random. It looks like random. However, it makes sure that no points are too close to each other. So it looks random, but it doesn't let the particles or the points get too close. So it looks evenly distributed. So it's random plus even. It's this super nice. Actually, you can read on the wiki. There is a here's an example of how it looks, how the points look. It's randomly positioned, but nearly even. Actually, if you can read more on the here in the, this is where you can see even more examples in a little bunny. Super nice. It's very common. It's used in many other softwares. It's open source. It's a library, so it's similar to what you will find in other softwares. That is the beauty of open source. Not Blender open source, but other softwares that are also open source or libraries. Is that you can use the same algorithm in multiple softwares. Blender, the big ones, you know. So right. Thus, it's the default. That is the new type of distribution. Actually, it also has a seed value. So if you're not happy with that specific distribution, you can click to change the seed. And also, just a note that if you've been playing with the geometry nodes and have files that you care about, but you shouldn't because this is alpha software, keep in mind that this commit doesn't handle do version. What does it mean? It means that when you open the new file, because the inputs and outputs of the node changed or the names change, then the connections are not going to be connected. The wires are not going to be connected, so you have to connect them again manually by yourself. That's the risk of using alpha software, is that you may have to do some work twice, but it's alpha, so it's allowed. You know, on one side, it's a pity that you have to do that, but on the other side, it's easier for developers to just improve without having to think about, oh, what happened to someone that opened Blender a month ago and saved the file and so on. Let's continue. What else? Oh, another big one. So, point clouds. Point clouds are, or were, well, are actually, they're still inside of Blender, but now they are experimental. However, they were the only way to have point distributions in meshes. So when you had a mesh and you used, in the past, I'm talking about the past week, when you had a mesh and you used the point distribute node, it wouldn't distribute the whatever you want to distribute. For example, if I have this cube and then I have a little sphere here, if I wanted to, for example, using geometry nodes, have a distribution of like for example, point distribute, then now there is a distribution, but before it wouldn't work. You would have to use a point cloud object that you will add from Shift A, and then you would choose point cloud from here. That is no longer there or anywhere. Unless you enable from interface, you enable developer extras, then you go to experimental, and then you enable the point cloud object. However, you don't have to. There is no point in using the point cloud object yet, because since the last few days, Jack-Luke has made it so now the meshes can also distribute points. So what you see here, it's a little mesh with distribution in it. That means that you can, oh, let's see actually the demo from Jack, because that one explains it much better. You can see the actual demo by the developer. So here. So as you can see, it's a simple mesh with a point distribution with some randomness, and it's using point instance here. As a density factor of the point distribute is using a vertex group. That's why when he's painting, now you see the distribution and the points being distributed in different areas. So that's why. Super nice. Now we don't need point clouds objects anymore. They're still there. The code is still there. They're just disabled because you can't do anything with them now. But in the future, they will become handy. They're clearly useful, but not as of today for the project that we have. All right, 2 new nodes, 2 more nodes, point separate and attribute compare nodes. When are you gonna use this? Okay, point separate allows you to have from the point distribution, you can use a mask attribute, for example, or a vertex group, and you can say, okay, separate these points in these 2. So let's see the example by the developer, Hans. So here, as you can see, here there is you can see there is a group input. Actually, I have this file here. I think you can download it. Yes, you can download the file. Let's see it live. Come on, it's the last show of the year. Let's see it live. Oh, I think I have the file somewhere here. So demo, geometry nodes, here. All right, let's go full all in. Let's see, where's my pen? Here. So I think when you download the file, the object that is used as object info is wrong. Pablo, don't do it, says Theo. All right, let's go. Let's try. I will try to edit those broken bits. Okay, so I think this is broken because like if I move this empty, it's not doing anything because it's using the it's using the cube itself, so it doesn't make sense. It has to use the empty, and then now you can see the effect. It's using the position of the empty. Let's try to read this node 3. All right, it's taking the geometry of the object, which is the cube. We has a bunch of vertices. Then it has the object info location of the empty, and then it's comparing. This is the new node. Compare, attribute compare. If the attribute are equal, the A, which is position. This position is coming from this geometry. Okay, so if the attribute position is equal to the location of the empty with this threshold, then make a new attribute, which is called mask. That is the logic. So it's pretty simple. Actually, after a while, it gets easier to read the nodes to see what do they do. If the attribute position is equal to the location, then mask it. So okay, I'm making an attribute that it's basically this area over here. We don't see it, but eventually we should be able to have like a way to visualize attributes in the viewport. Then this is the other new node, point separate, with geometry 1 and geometry 2. Because geometry 2 is not connected, I'm just taking the geometry 1, which is apparently this one. If I connect the other one, I should see the rest. Yeah, exactly. So now I'm making particles appear. Is it easy to understand? This point separate has a mask, and this mask attribute is what it was the result of this node over here. So it's easy to understand, right? I think at the beginning maybe it's a bit more complex, but it should be easy. Let's try something else. Let's do something with let's add, for example, I have a little sphere here, and then I'm gonna use this sphere to instance in that object. So, okay, let's use a point instance, and in geometry 1 I'm gonna point instance the sphere. Cool, now I have this sphere. But I can also just go and do add, I don't know, let's add a monkey. Always a monkey. And in the monkey, I'm gonna do point instance with the second geometry. So I have on one side, oh no, I now have to join it because I have two geometries. Okay, now I can use the geometry, join geometry, and I will have, bam, monkeys on one side and then spheres on the other side. The rotation is a bit weird, so we can actually randomize the rotation as well. So we can take let's add a new node. Let's do attribute randomize, which used to be called random attribute. Now it was inverted, so it can be a bit more readable. So okay, let's use rotation, and I'm here just randomizing it from 0 to 1, but we want to take the rotation. So what is the rotation? It's pi. We can do minus. Do you know that you can write? Oh, I thought this almost died. Okay, minus pi, and then you know that you can type pi, and then bam, you have it in all directions. Wow, nice. That's cool. Actually, maybe I can just, if I did this before, like at the beginning, did you know that too, that you can hold Alt and then drag, and then it will pull the node from the tree? Okay, so that's better, because if I do it before, then the position of the randomize is more clear. Isn't that great? Nice. We can also do this with like scale. Let's play. It's the last episode of the year. It doesn't matter if it's a bit longer. Let's do attribute mix, right? Or not? Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So what I'm gonna mix here, I'm gonna take the geometry, and I want to make some bigger than others. I want to make like the monkey bigger than the other one. So what if I take the scale, and then I multiply it by the position of the empty, maybe, and then as a result I have the scale again. Ooh, nice. So I can, okay, and this is a mix, but I can actually I can hide the monkey and the sphere. What if I use a multiply? Oh, it's the same. Ooh, nice. That's cool. Nice. All right. Well, yeah, now you can see all the crazy stuff that you can do. However, I want the scale. Okay, let's do another. Let's do something else. Is it boring? Is everybody having fun? Okay. For example, if I scale this empty, is not scaling the threshold. So let's do the scaling of the. Let's make it also. So what do we want here? Let's see. We get the object info. We want to use the scale as threshold. Can I just plug it in? Okay, yeah, okay, that was easy. That was simple. I wanted to do some like vector math, which you can do. You can do just regular math even. If you go to utilities, math, and then you can just like if you want to do something more complex, you can do add, or you can use any of these crazy ones. Isn't that great? It's getting there. It's getting there. It's maybe not the big H yet, or it's not Sverchok, or it's not animation nodes, or it's not Mash, or it's not there yet. However, it's the building blocks for something huge. And what is exciting is that it's not an add-on, but it's built in Blender. It's here to stay. So this is super exciting. All right, okay, let's continue. Let's continue because there is so much more actually that I want to share with you. There is a new other. It's another node that it's new. It's the attribute color ramp, which is basically what what the name says. You just take an attribute and then you can map it. So for example, what if this actually I've never used it, but what if I use it as a mask? If I do the mask here and then no, I'm taking the mask and I'm using the result of the mask. No, no. Okay, this one I don't know how to use it. I didn't test it, so but it's an attribute color ramp, so it should be similar to that. The same with the other new node that showed up this week is the input vector, which is it's pretty much like combine RGB or like a combine XYZ, but without an input. Maybe the combine XYZ should be that. Somebody in the community, they were suggesting that this should be renamed, and I think it makes sense to rename this because combine XYZ, we also have combine RGB, which is the same. It's just a different type of yeah, but it's the same. RGB, XYZ, it's all the same. So yeah, your hat looks wild. I'm wearing a hat because my hair is so long. It's the Corona haircut, lockdown haircut. That's why. Then this one is better to show it in the actual video that Hans made. So he made it so now the randomize, it's more stable. How stable? Super stable. Look, now when you take or when you add or remove points, the position of the particles is stable. It stays there. That is one of the big limitations that the old particle system in Blender had. It would just flicker like crazy. Like the moment you change something, then the rest of the mesh will flicker, and that was a pain in the arm. But not anymore. Now actually when you move, you can see that you can even modify the mesh. You can edit the mesh, and the position of the vertices will try of the particles will stay there as much as possible. Super nice. So thank you, Hans, for working on it. Let's move on. Then you can now pick random instances of a collection. When you're instancing a collection, here in this demo that Jack made, you can see now that in the point instance node, you can choose the whole collection, or you can pick randomly which you have a seed where you can pick which objects to select. This one, actually all the plants have the same color, but they are different kind of plants. I don't know if you noticed. Maybe the demo should have different colors for the plants so it's easier to see. But as you can see now, yeah, they are different. They're different models from the same collection. What else? There is a new Boolean attribute type. It's a new socket type. So, right? This adds a Boolean attribute and custom data type to be used in point separate node. It also adds it as a supported data types in the random attribute and attribute fill nodes. Interesting. Okay, there are more clever ways of storing, but I think none is using it yet. In any case, we still probably always want the idea of a Boolean attribute. Yes. And some people have been suggesting about having different shapes for the sockets, and I think, yes, we should have. However, I think they should be, like people are saying, like attributes should have a different shape, factor a different shape, geometry also. But I think that we could just use colors for that and use the shape to to tell other types of data. So you have an attribute that is a string. It could be this circle, an attribute that is a boolean, and then you have a different shape. So that at least you know it's like, okay, the color says it's an attribute, and then the shape, it says which kind of data it is. Maybe you want an array, maybe you want a list, array list, or you want yeah, other types. Floats, vectors, they can all have different shapes. But what if you have an array of boolean objects? Then you can have an array as a color, and then boolean. Okay, now then it becomes tricky. Then boolean is a type, and array I think we have a color for boolean already, so that's why it's important to have both color plus shape. That is my take on it. And last but not least, this is again if you were working with geometry nodes in the past, there is some renaming that has been done for the point distribute. Now the sockets have a different name. Before it was minimum distance, now a distance mean, and the maximum density is a typo. It has a different name. So point instance, point distribute, here, density max. So yeah, because the name changed, the connection will be lost, so make sure that you reconnect them manually. All right, I think that it's all for the geometry nodes. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot. Let's move into, well, this is just one node, but since we are in the node area, node section of the day, we can see a new compositor node. Yes, that's good. That's news. There's a new node for exposure. It was developed by Aaron Carlisle, Blendify, and this new node increases the radiance of an image by scalar value. Previously, the only way to adjust the exposure of an image was with the math node or using the scene colors management. So nice. Yeah, with the color management, you could control the exposure. Now you can do it with a node. That's pretty nice. Cool. All right. So let's change topic as fast as possible because we have so much to cover today. What about, what should I show first? Sculpting? Let's do sculpting. Let's do sculpting. All right. What a pain is to scroll with this with a pen. Does anybody know if Wacom or other companies sell pens with a wheel? Why are they not doing that? Or touch, so you can actually scroll with the pen? Why? Let's see. Let's do sculpting. Then we have the video sequence editor, so stay tuned. The next is sculpting. There is a new tool that is called Fair Face Sets. It's an operation for the face set edit. So when you're editing the face sets, when you have a selection of face set, you can perform different types of edit. You can perform mesh filters. You can do pretty much anything in that selected face set. This new option is called Flare, and this one actually Fair, and this one comes from an add-on, mesh fairing add-on. So let's see what it is. Here is Van Gogh before and after. So what does it do? It basically keeps all the geometry intact, but it just smoothens everything. So the topology is the same, like the amount of vertices. It just removes, like softens everything super hard. So yeah, that's pretty useful to remove parts of the shape. Or even there is another type here. It's called Fair Positions, which it's kind of like trimming but keeping the geometry intact. Also super nice. So pen with a wheel, Pablo pen with a wheel. Thank you. Yes, something like that. Thank you for the comments. I'm reading, by the way. I have the comments right next to the window I'm showing. So I'm reading you all the time. Turn touch on your tab. No, my tablet doesn't have touch because it was more expensive and I never use touch. And I usually use touch by mistake. So I don't have it enabled. I have one of these Intuos mini ones, the tiny ones. But yeah, it should have, come on, it should have a wheel or a touch. It should be like touch up, touch down. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, by the way, here, shout out to the developer, Brett Fedak. He made the add-on, and Pablo Doar went, asked permission, of course, took this, well, nice example, took the add-on and made it into actual Blender code. He made some changes, yeah, that are listed here, about, yeah, not triangulating the mesh, and some other details that you can read here in the thread of the change. Another huge tool for sculpting is called multi-res displacement smear. Multi-resolution displacement smear. What is it? I don't know, but it has fire, hearts, love, thumbs up, and party. What does it do? It is like a smear, like when you are painting, for example, but it's pushing the geometry underneath. So, okay, let's read. This tool implements smearing for multi-resolution displacements over the limit surface, similar to how smearing for colors and topology slide works. When used, the displacement values of the vertices slide over the topology, creating the effect of smearing the surface detail. Nice. Wow. So it's like painting with polygons. But not poly painting, painting with polygons. So cool, super nice. It's like putting with a finger. It feels more real life. So thank you, Pablo Doarro, for working on this. It's time to move into the other section of the day. Huge changes coming to the video sequence editor, because say goodbye to the way you import videos, images, and always fighting with the size of the media, that it doesn't fit, or it fits too much, or you have to constantly change it, or it gets stretched. So annoying, so annoying. Not anymore, because this improvement adds an operator, is an option, and it's called it's many options. Basically it's many operators. So let's see it in Blender. Let's see it inside Blender. Let's start a new video editing file, and let's see if I can add some image here. So yeah, I'm gonna add here an image that is very small. So let's see the default. Bam. Okay, so how small is this image? This image originally is here. You see, it's very tiny. It's actually 400 pixels or so. And this file is full HD. So what Blender is doing is feeding the image, scaling the image so it fits in the viewport. That is the default behavior of this tool. And the other option, so this is the default. What if I change this to scale to fill? The second option is gonna make it so when you drop the image, you see, it scales it so it fills. So it fills the entire place. So it goes into the edges, to the side edges, to the border of the canvas, and then the top and bottom are cropped, so you can always adjust those. You can move them around. Then let's see the other one. Stretch to fill. What do you expect this to do? To freaking stretch it to fill. When are you gonna use this? Not as often, I think. But this used to be the default for Blender. Any image that you added, you will have to go back and manually remember how many pixels the image was and fix it. It was super annoying. Now the stretch to fill, it does that for you, unless you want it. All right, let's see. Next. Use original size. What do you expect that to do? Nothing. It just leaves the image as it is. I'm so excited about it. It's such a small thing, but the fit method it's called fit method, and you have to set it before adding it because it's like a default. So basically, if you have a bunch of images that you want to preserve the default, the original size, you just leave it there, and then you just drag and drop multiple images, and they are all going to be they were going to be kept in that shape. Oh, I have one from the Webby Awards. From the Blender Webby Awards. All right. Isn't this great? Isn't this great? Can it be done after importing? Yes. You can actually go here and you can do image transform. So it's an operator too. You can select, for example, if I added this and I wanted to stretch it because I'm weird, I can just go into strip, image transform, stretch to fill, and then it's gonna do that. It's gonna be the thick Pablo in there. But you can also do the other ones. You can do scale to fill, scale to fit. Isn't this great? Isn't this great? You get wide, Pablo. Yeah, wide angle. I'm not wide. I'm just thick boned. All right. So that's just the first of the many sequencer improvements that we're gonna see today. Because the next one, it's a change and an improvement that is an internal change that also has improvements in the operator itself. Remove gaps. This used to be it's an operator that was randomly added. It wasn't really part of the module of the Blender module, the sequencer module, so it wasn't as fast. Now it is fast. Now it's much faster. It's improved performance by calculating the gap length and offsetting strips at once. The strips previously were offset by 1 frame too. I didn't know that. Then here, calculate gap from start frame. Previously, gap was considered only between the strips. So now actually it's gonna calculate it from the very start frame and not just the gap that exists between the strips. It's an option though, so you can always go back to the previous behavior. There is also another improvement in usability. Now when you paste strips, they're going to be pasted after the playhead, after the current frame. Before they were pasted before, and it was super weird. So yeah, the previous behavior though, it's there. It's Ctrl+Shift+V. I'm not sure about the shortcut, if we should keep that shortcut or not, but anyway, that's the current way of pasting the old way, which is putting the strip at the beginning, not after, before the playhead. What I mean with we shouldn't, I don't know if we should keep this shortcut, is that Ctrl+Shift+V in other softwares is used for like pasting attributes. And we could use that, or like pasting modifiers, or many other properties of strips, which which maybe we could use a shortcut for. Then more reordering of the tools. This one by Peter Fogg as well, the reorder tools in the sequencer preview. So basically just shuffling things around. It's all much more organized. The tools, for example, here the tools, they were in a really good order. Usually in Blender, the tools, the selection is on top and the annotations are on bottom. So now that is better. There is a new, there are new panels, overlay popovers. So the same way that the 3D viewport has overlays, well, actually we can see it here. So I don't know if you get to see, but here on the corner, there is an overlay icon, which is the same icon that is used in the viewport. So yay for consistency. Let's bring it here. You can also now disable new settings that were not available before, like the name. So if I have it here enabled, wow, you see that? Nice funky drawing. It's pink. Ooh, ick. I shouldn't push that. Anyway, so you can also now disable the name, disable the source, so the path, the duration, the offsets and the curve. The offset is when, well, for video strips, when they come, when the video ends and there is an offset, you can also disable that. And the waveform display, you can change it from here. So again, yay for consistency, because that, yeah, if you come from the video, from the layout, from the 3D viewport, now you recognize this icon. Now it's also in here. So thank you, Peter, for working on it and for making things more consistent. And the next update is add select neighboring handles. So it's a few operators that allow you to select the handles on the neighboring strips. So the left, the right, or both. Also super nice. And they have shortcuts, actually. Is that Premiere Pro? Is Blender Pro? Sequencer Pro? Maybe Blender 3 should be called Blender Pro, just to get people to look at it. I think enough people are looking at Blender nowadays. All right, it's already 6, and I still have things to show. Let me see how many, because let's see how many questions are there on Blender today. Otherwise, I can do a question. Wow, 27 questions. Okay, let's see. All right, there's not too many new things to show. Grease Pencil, crank, crank, crank. I do the sound myself. Grease Pencil array modifier now has an option for random, uniform random scaling. So that means that when you scale now, if I switch sides here, you can scale, you can randomize in each one of the axes, or XYZ on offset, rotation, and scale. But now you also have a uniform scale property there to scale uniformly. And this improvement is for interpolation of strokes with an equal length. This is much more improved. This is a new, actually we can see here the before and the after. So on the left side is the old interpolation mode, which you can see that didn't always work. You can see there is like some missing points. And on the right is the new one. Interpolate sequence, and it just works TM. Isn't that great? So yeah, you don't have to do anything. You just keep using the same feature and it just works. Isn't that great? Folk David is great. Thank you, Folk, for working on it. It's those little things that you see, you notice that suddenly they work. Super nice. All right. Okay, NLA. There's just a few improvements, but this is for usability. Now the option called sync length, which was added in the previous release in 2.91, if I'm not mistaken, now it's on by default. It's just a convenience, since it allows to animators to keyframe outside of the strip bounds by default. This option was off before because this because the old behavior, like the old behavior, was that if you added keyframes outside of the bounds, then the whole thing would like move around, it will shift, and it was super annoying. So now this makes it much more useful. The next improvement is in the user interface, and this one I'm gonna show it at full glory, because let me make the biggest. Okay, how big can Blender go? Let's go to 2. Actually, you can go more, but 2 is enough. But if you didn't know, you can click here and go up to 4. But then it gets hard to close Blender. So, okay, why am I so excited? Because an old friend, an old ugly friend, has gotten a facelift. Do you notice? Can you tell what changed? This guy over here. The data block ID selector, it's now not a mess anymore, because before it wouldn't fit. Like, they had so many buttons that you couldn't even fit the text sometimes. Now you can. Now it has a drop down for all the options, so you can make a new one, duplicate, and link at a fake user, or see how many users it has. This is one user right here. So these buttons over here, they're just shortcuts. So they're the same. So you can duplicate or delete the same that you can do from here, or unlink. They're just shortcuts. But for example, when you don't need it, here, it's right there. That is super nice. And I was thinking that the mark asset option is in right click, which is weird because we don't have these things in right click anymore. I think we should add the mark asset here now that we have a menu. What do you guys think? I think so. It will make it more discoverable because people are not used to right click on data blocks because there is really nothing else. We never added any important stuff in there. So I think the mark asset should be there. Yeah, in both. Could be in both. But yeah, the right click menu, we don't use it that much except for like copy data path and stuff. But yeah, super neat. With like this alone already is like a huge improvement. I think this is gonna be day and night. Also, another improvement, it was added by the community, so it's a shout out and a great improvement that makes it so that when you're searching for add-ons, the category is also gonna be part of the search. So you can type the category name and you're gonna find it. And this was added by Vincent Blankfield, VVV says username. So super great. Thank you, Vincent, for working on it. And now you can search when, by the way, this only works when you have all. When the category search is all, now you can type and search for specific categories. Super nice. Do we have a 10-year-old in the chat? Yes. Is Blender free? I want to use Blender. Is Blender free? Yes and no. Blender, yes, it's free. But you know, that's not the best thing about Blender. Blender is open source. That's the best thing, because there are many other softwares that are free or that are so-called free, yet they're not open source. And that is the big difference. Blender is and will always be free and open source. So you can do anything. You can study to change Blender and make your own. You're only 10 now, but you can learn how to change Blender and make your own Blender and share it with your friends and your family and everybody. Your dog. You can make a Blender for your dog. That is the best thing ever. Okay, another shout out, and with this I'm gonna be wrapping up. It's a shout out to Matteo Falduto, because he made it so the lamp panel, the shape panel for lamps between cycles and Eevee, it's the same. Before it wasn't, so that is a pretty neat update. And while you're at it, if you're inspired, there is one thing that is still different between Eevee and cycles. Is the it's the here in the lamps that, for example, no, in the materials, sorry. So in the materials here, Eevee has the short version of this icon, and then Cycles has the long one, the data and object, and they're the same. They just yeah, they just don't have it. So if you feel inspired to change it, please be my guest. All right, feature requesting users, isn't that great? All right, let's see what else. Oh, this is okay. More shout outs. It doesn't matter that it's longer, that the episode is longer. Updated and extended regression testing frameworks. The Google Summer of Code 2020 by Himeshi Kara. It's now part of Blender. This is mainly targeted toward developers. This is so testing yeah, this is not for end users. However, it benefits end users because this is a new testing framework. What does it mean? Softwares, when you're developing software, you want to test it, but automatically you want to run a command and, for example, add all the modifiers and expect this change. Okay, so if this is run and this is the expected result, is it didn't went fine, well, or not? And that's how you test software, and that's how you can automate these changes. For example, there are tests that compare Cycles renders from version to version. So if it takes a render in 291 and then 292, and it has to look the same, otherwise it will throw an error and it will ring an alarm in all the developers' houses and phones to tell them that, hey, something changed that shouldn't have changed. All right, more improvements. Performance, isn't this the best news? Performance improvements were rendering at very high resolution. How high? Well, okay, this bug report was rendering around 19,000 pixels by 10,000 pixels. All right, there was a regression, so it's a good and a bad thing. In Blender 2.83, a render of the default cube with just this size, it used to take 4.5 minutes. However, in 2.91, something changed and it went up to over 20 minutes, and that's not great. However, when fixing this issue, Jeroen Bakker made it so now it actually takes way less time. It's a fix and an improvement. That's why it's important to report bug fixes, you know? Maybe developers find a way to make things faster, like here. Now, with this patch, this change is, it went from 4.5 minutes in 283 to 1 minute in the 292. So yeah, for one release, for only 291, there were cases where rendering super large images was actually slower, but now it's actually faster. So super great news. Another improvement fix in the user interface is that now the number buttons in the color pickers now are using linear hue saturation value. So what does it mean? Previously, the hue saturation values were in the color picking space, which meant the relation to the scene linear RGB values was confusing. So what is the new situation? The new situation is that the RGB and the hue saturation value buttons are using scene linear color space, where the picker widgets are used in the color picking color space, and the hex values are using as RGB. So yes, thank you Jeroen Bakker, thank you Vazquez for working on it. And okay, I think we are done with the improvements. Yes, just I never mentioned add-ons, but this is a very popular add-on that is built in Blender. It's the Loop Tools add-on. Now has a new option for rotation of points aligned along a circle by a certain angle. So it's a new setting that we can just read the tooltip is rotate a circle by an angle. So yeah, Loop Tools. And with that, I finish all the improvements and features and new everything that we've seen this week. Let's try to do maybe a few minutes of questions. Change the camera, please. Is it annoying to have me on the other side? Here. Let's see. Thank you, Blender Defender, for making this thread. Now I will start reading from the top because they are the ones that have more votes, and then I'll go to the end. So let's see. Let's start. Reza12354 is asking, hey Pablo, not sure if this should be a bug or a feature request, but when you press tab in any properties with multiple values, the cursor should highlight between the multiple values. This is currently not the case for vertex weights, which has been kind of annoying. Instead, pressing tab just toggles between edit mode and object mode. I think it has to do with the editor. I think if you're in, yeah, that is a bug. That is a bug. Because if you do tab, it should tab between the selected objects or selected fields. Sorry. Yes, it's a bug. Please report it. It's definitely a bug. Because in the viewport, if you're editing a field, the tab shouldn't be should be taken into account. All right, let's continue. Lapisi, second question. They say, no question, just need to recommend everyone to start playing this at the end of the live stream. What is it? The final countdown. Yes. It's I remember I had a job where we would play this every Friday. at 6 o'clock, like at the end of the day. We'll play that and we'll start the end of the day in Argentina. That was super fun. All right, next question. It's hello Pablo, what a great year for Blender, and it seems to be only the start. Are there any news on the hair object project and the new grooming system, and when the work starts? One more, is it possible to okay, no, so no, not that I know. There is no current news on that. I think once the geometry nodes project is more like in shape, like more nodes are added, that is going to help the grooming system, because hair is just basically particles, right? Distributed hairs. So I think the geometry nodes project is a good foundation to then work on that. Next, one more. Is it possible to number the hair particles in render so I know which one I need to specifically tune? I think don't they have like each particle? Blender is on Discord. No, Blender is not on Discord officially. Blender, some communities have made their own Discord channels, but there is no official Blender Discord. The official Blender chat is called Blender.Chat, which you can log in with your Blender ID, but there is no official Blender Discord. Okay, let's continue. So next, Slug Nugget says, hey son Pablo, hope you're doing well. I need your help to decide whether this should be a bug report or a feature request. When moving an object with increment snapping, it won't snap to round numbers in the transform channels, but snap to seemingly arbitrary numbers instead. Maybe screen space snapping. Yes, it is screen space snapping. Basically it will snap to whatever size of your yeah, in this view it's kind of weird, but basically it will snap to the size of the grid here. So for example, if I'm zoomed in and I go, it will snap to this grid, but if I zoom out, it will snap to these sides of the screen of the grid. So yeah, let's continue. What is it? The final countdown. Oh no, I lost the... Okay, let's do 5 more questions because it's way too late. So I did this one. Okay, 5 more. Christmas wish. Can we have particle info node in Eevee, please? I wish I would code. I wish I could code so I could give it to you as a Christmas wish. Next, Matt Fagan asks, hi Pablo, when will the multi-red modifier receive hotkeys? Ctrl D and Shift D. No, Ctrl D and Shift D are for dupli to increase and decrease subdivision levels on the fly while in sculpt mode. I really think Blender needs this to improve in sculpt prospects for... No, Shift D and Ctrl D are taken for the subdivision. Oh, you mean the same shortcuts that are for the topo? Yeah, maybe you could have shortcuts. Not hotkey commands can be assigned once. Yeah, maybe I think the solution should be to just be able to add those to see that Porsche to 2092, the end of 2020. What happened? The end of what? The end of the show. Blender Today, as we know it. Okay, question number 4. PM Macarella says, hi Pablo, you're great. You are great. You're breathtaking. I have two questions for you. Are there any updates regarding the sculpting performance improvements Pablo Navarro is working on, and will they be integrated in the main release? Yes. Recently, I don't know if it's the one, but Pablo Navarro has made a new branch of Blender. What does it mean? It means a new it's basically taking Blender's code and making a copy and working on that copy. So it gives him a lot more freedom to work on it. Right now we are in Beacon 2 of the stage of Blender 2.92, which means we shouldn't be adding risky new stuff in master. However, Pablo made a branch, so he can do risky stuff in a separate branch, and then those changes are going to be merged. And I don't know what the current status of it is, but that should be, I'm hoping that will come in that as part of that branch. Do you know if somebody's working on the brush workflow improvements, and if there are improvements done in the near future? I think now that the asset browser is in, this can be thought more like integrating it better with the rest of Blender, but not that I know. Right now, the developers and many people are on holidays, and this and next week. So yeah, things are going to slow down a little bit. Thank you very much for your attention. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We need it so much to you and all the Blender community. Thank you. Pablo, this is not going to be the end. How do you know? How do you know? Okay, so let's do, that was question 3, 4. Okay, let's do 3 more, and I'm gonna go to the bottom so I get to answer the first one to be asked. Hi Pablo, when the walk fly navigation is used, is it possible to set the height of your camera to the ground? That is possible in the Blender preferences. Thank you very much, Sila, for answering the question for me. I love your weekly show, says Blender Defender. Thank you. How is the Sprite Fright credit thing planned? I mean, will there really be my name in the credits, or will there be like special thanks to all Blender Cloud subscribers, like in the previous open movies? It would be nice if you could answer this question. No, it would. Your actual name in the credits. It will be the actual names in the credits. It's not like everybody, but like I show, like Sintel, like Cosmos Laundromat, like in Cosmos Laundromat, for example. At the end, you're gonna see a lot of names. But yeah, here can be yours. So no, it's real credits. Next, here's my question. Will a PC with Threadripper with lots of RAM and a GPU with lots of VRAM get bottlenecked by Blender? Is it worth to spend the amount of money to minimize the time lags while working and rendering? It is worth. I think Blender, especially if you use like cycles, it's super good at scaling up, at using proper amounts of threads and stuff. There is more parts and more every release. There are more parts that are being more multi-threaded, so I think it will. But yeah, especially if you do CPU plus GPU rendering with video. All right, question number 4, Damian Winichenko. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Yesterday, I have found out that Edit Particles mode is broken on non-hair simulations. Edit Particles mode. Yeah, Edit Particles mode, it's it's under, how do you call it? End of life. End of life, it's because it's gonna be replaced by the new particle system using the geometry nodes concept. So yeah, it is end of life, unfortunately. No, don't leave behind. No, it won't be left behind. It's just that, yeah, it's there is a new system coming anyway. All right, and the last question. Here's a shower thought I had in mind for a while. What if we could fund specific areas in Blender with a maximum donation limit per area, so the corps won't control the development? They will never control development, don't worry. I think that the way the professionals, the fanatic, and the hardcore users will donate even more. Start donating, increasing Blender's income. Yeah, actually this was mentioned in the past. There were some proposals on how to do it. The thing is, how can you the fact that more money is given into a specific area doesn't always like can guarantee that a section will be developed unless it's a whole new developer like being dedicated into that area. There's I don't know how many people will from their money say, okay, I want bug fixes, but you need to have bug fixes, right? You can't just not work on bug fixing. So yeah, I think the more like a better way to see what people are using and what people are more interested is just by looking at the community. You look at Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and you see what people are doing, and then you're gonna see like, ah, okay, this is what is really missing or not. Yeah, maybe it could be that from the development fund they could pick which areas of interest. Maybe that would be nice, like in fund.blender.org, maybe as part of the membership. That could be. By the way, there's a new sponsor. Amazon Web Services is now sponsoring Blender to focus on the animation side of things. So pretty exciting indeed. But yeah, maybe as part of the membership, you could choose like which area in Blender to cover more. So yeah. All right, I am running out of voice. How has it been for you? Was it a good show? A bit too long. I'm gonna cut the sections that are a bit too broken because Blender broke. But I hope you had a good time. I did have a good time. I can't really believe that the year is over. That 2020, it's over. It's over. And Blender, it's been a tough year for everybody, but Blender in particular, I think has been very lucky. The support by the community has been huge. The support by like companies, studios, people at home, people using Blender, people teaching Blender to others, like the quarantine time, when the lockdowns, in a way it kind of made Blender get to more places. People that didn't know they could do 3D, they found out they can learn 3D, that it's not really that hard, that you don't need to spend thousands in software to learn something new, to learn a new skill. That maybe people that were doing sculpting found themselves doing grease pencil for a change. It hasn't been too bad for Blender itself. We had 4 releases this year. We had Blender 2.82, 2.83, 2.90, 2.91. 4 releases in 1 year. 2.83 got 10 fixed releases. 10. So I think it has been pretty well. Blender, luckily Blender is doing really well. The support from the people, it's just crazy. The amount of views these videos are getting are growing, and the subscribers of the Blender Foundation YouTube channel, the tutorials out there, the support when developing new features, when like Geometry Nodes project started, so many tutorials, even when there were just like 3 nodes. That's really motivating. The feedback that you give, everything, is really important, and that's what makes Blender different. The community, really. You can ask anybody that is starting to use Blender, and they mention after the price. Some people mention the price, but the second thing they mention is the community. It's the community. It's you at home using Blender, testing it, reporting bugs, watching this, leaving a comment saying, hey, this is nice, this is not so nice, could you change this, could you improve that? It's just a community project. It's people. So let's not forget about that, and let's make 2021 even bigger, even more about people. Hopefully in person for Blender conference. Who knows? Community, Blender community is love. Here, I'm reading the chat. Blender community is love. What is Blender for you? Is it really just a 3D free software? Or is it something else? Did you get to know people? Did you get to know the love of your life because of Blender? Did you get to meet people in your area, to connect, to make a living, to make the movie that you always wanted to make, to learn programming, to learn Python for the first time, to create your own environment and use VR to look into it, to make a game, to make or to build your house in 3D and then make it in real life. I did that when many years ago, yes, 10 years ago, I made it in 3D, and then over the years I managed to build more or less what I had in mind with Blender. Yeah, it's just crazy. So happy to be part of this project and to have you as part of this project. It's about people. 3D printing, yes, it's about people. Let's make it more about people. Let's meet again next week, next year, same place, same time, for Blender Today episode 133, or should we just change the season? Thank you, everybody. I'm not gonna cry. I said I wouldn't cry. I'm not gonna cry. No, of course I'm not gonna cry. I'm looking for the epic music of the episode. So okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Sonic boom! Thanks everybody for being here the whole year, during lockdown, without the lockdown, during the summer, during the winter, during everything, with the guests, with thanks to the guests that were here at the show. And let's meet next year for even more of this. Leave please comments how we can make the show even better, even bigger next year. Let me know. I will be reading you. Let's hang out in the comments. See you. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Everything. I don't wanna stop it, but I have to.